The topic of our discussion is the cell cycle. The most basic characteristics of life is reproduction. Reproduction occurs at different levels of organizations, and part of cells such as chromosome produce new chromosomes, and these cells produce new cells and which produce offspring like themselves. So the reproduction is one of the most important characteristics of the life cycle. So cell cycle is the series of events from the time a cell is produced until it completes mitosis and produce new cells. So the cycle and a series of events is basically called the cell cycle until the cell is produced and completes mitosis and produce new cells. So the process of reproduction occurs, and the cycle of reproduction is called the cell cycle. Cell cycle consists of two major phases, interphase and mitotic phase, which is also called as M phase. Mitotic phase is relatively a short period of cell cycle. It alternates with a much longer interphase where cells prepare itself for division. So mitotic phase is very short period of cell cycle, and the longer phase is interphase. Interphase is a time when a cell's metabolic activity is very high as it performs its various functions. As we know, the interphase is a long period of cell cycle, and because of their metabolic activity is high, it is divided into three phases, which are G1, essences, and G2. And G1 is called first gap, S is called synthesis, and G2 is called second gap. So we have to remember this name. G1S and G2 are the three phases of a cell cycle. G1 phase, after its production, a cell start its cell cycle in G1 phase. During this phase, cell increases its supply of proteins, increases the number of its organelles such as mitochondria, ribosomes, and grows in size. This phase is also marked by the synthesis of various enzymes that are required in next phase, as phase for the duplication of chromosome. Typically, interphase lasts for at least 90% of the total time required by the cell cycle. So, as phase in this phase, cell duplicates its chromosome. As a result, each chromosome consists of two sister chromatids. G2 phase, in the G2 phase, cell prepares proteins that are essential for mitosis, mainly for the production of spindle fibers. After the G2 phase of interphase, cell enters the division phase, which is called M phase. It is characterized by mitosis, in which cell divides into the two daughter cells. Cells that have temporarily or permanently stopped dividing are said to have entered a state of quiescence called G dot phase. As you can see in this picture, here is G1 phase, which is the synthesis of protein. G2 phase, more growth, synthesis of proteins. Then S phase, duplication of the chromosome, growth in the size, and M phase, which is cell division. So we can see the interphase is big occupied the big area than the mitotic phase. And G naught phase, in multicellular eukaryote, cells enter G naught phase from G1 and stop dividing. Some cell remains in G naught for indefinite period, i.e. neurons. Some cells enter G naught phase semi-permanently. Some cells of liver and kidney, mainly cells, do not enter G naught and continue to divide throughout an organism's life. Epithelial cells. The events of cell cycle are ordered and directional. Each event occurs in a sequential fashion, and it is impossible to reserve the cycle. So the here in this blog, always remember this thing. um, you always have to memorize these kind of blocks like pink or blue blocks, because they also contain an important information. And in this block there is very important information that the event of the cell cycles are ordered and directional. The event of cell cycles are ordered and directional. They are ordered and in a one direction. Then each event occur in a sequential fashion. So that's not happens like the G naught phase occur first and the no. There is an order of and proper direction for events to held on. And it is impossible to reverse the cycle. Once a cell is made, it is impossible to reverse the cell in the first phase, because the already cell is made and it is ready to go in the next phase. They are irreversible. It is impossible to reverse them. So this is all about the cell cycle. Hope so you will understand this